Dawn breaks over a thick canopy of trees, its beams of sunlight piercing through the foliage and illuminating the verdant rolling hills of the village of Ardenau. As night turns to day, her inhabitants wake up from their peaceful slumber and ready themselves for the day. Houses, crafted lovingly from lumber, circle a large square in the center of the village, lined with sanded stone from a nearby riverbed. The sights and sounds of the blacksmith, the tailor, the cobbler, the miller, and more fill the square. Farmers strap their plows to oxen and head towards the wheat fields to the south. Woodsmen carry their axes to the abundant forests to the north. The baker struggles to remember how to turn on his newly purchased magic-powered oven. And as the village comes alive, a house can be seen alone on top of a hill overlooking Ardenau. It is a modest but well cared for house, with gardens lining the walls of brilliant and blooming herbs, flowers. And as we zoom in through the window, we see a bedroom. Sparse, but everything has its place. We see a bed with sheets covering a huddled mass. And as the light begins to seep through the window and hit the bed at just the right angle, someone stirs underneath the sheets. Carmen, would you care to describe your character?
For a girl who has spent the majority of her life following a carefully crafted sequence of chores, hunts, and orders, you would think rising at the crack of dawn would come as easy as breathing to Poppy. And yet, as the sun filters through the window and dances across ginger hair and tan skin, Poppy is unmoving in her sleeping form. The rooster caws outside, and the noise only seems to push her further into the nestled bed. She pulls the sheet up, blocking out the obtrusive sun and any thoughts that dance between dreams and reality.
As she huddles her sheets tighter and tighter, begging for the sunlight to go away.
Poppy? Weren't you supposed to clean the rifles this morning?
The sound of her mother's voice rings throughout the house.
The second the noise cuts through the carefully crafted piece that she has found herself in bed, she is up like a bolt. Hair a mess, barely having time to blink the sleep out of her eyes, and Poppy is suddenly sent into terror, into shock, into fear now as she realizes, oh no, I slept in. It takes a moment to compose herself, quickly pulling up herself from the bed, running to the nearby mirror, tidying her hair into a very messy braid, something she usually would never leave the house in. But as she does so, she is quick, moving around with a feral ferocity in an attempt to get herself ready for the day. And as she pulls open the door to her bedroom, she is met immediately with the delicious smells of her mother's breakfast. Ma, oh no. She howls down the stairs. And before she gets a response, she's pounding her way to where she hopes her mother is in the kitchen.
She rounds the corner of this lovingly decorated home filled with furs and the heads of game, trophies that her father has accumulated over the years as both the échevin of the village as well as the head huntsman in charge of the village. His trophies are vast. Stag heads, wolf heads, all can be seen along these walls. But noticeably absent from the kitchen that Poppy now finds herself in. This is her mother's domain, and she has made it very clear to her husband that while he may give orders to everyone else in the village, here, she is queen. Poppy rounds the corner and sees her mother with her back turned towards her. Imogen is a fiery beauty. Her bright strawberry blonde hair, identical to her daughter's, pulled up into a neat ponytail, an apron around her light blue dress, as she is over the stove, cooking what smells to be delicious fresh eggs hatched from their chickens this morning. She turns around, her piercing blue eyes staring directly at Poppy, and she says, "Poppy, I could have sworn you woke up way earlier. I had no idea you slept in. You're late, girl."
Yeah, I'm really late, actually, and I don't... That smells amazing, for one, but two, have you seen my boot? She holds up one hunter's boot, the other missing.
All right, listen. Your daddy went out early. I don't know when he'll be back, but here, I'm going to plate these. You're going to eat these for breakfast real quick. I'm going to look for your boot, okay?
Oh, I don't have time for all the eggs. Can't you just whip up some bread? Don't you have bread?
Okay, but I got to find your boot, Poppy.
Okay.
Because you don't know where it is. Gods know I don't know where it is. All right.
You're right.
Listen.
Okay.
Let's work together. All right. You need food and it's going to be a long day, and you know your daddy is not...
Yeah.
Your daddy's going to be cross with you. And you don't want to do that on an empty stomach, baby girl. Here, you take these eggs, shovel them in your mouth. Let me look for your boot. And she quickly plates the eggs. She spins them, like slides them across the dinner table and just points at them. And she hurries off, taking her apron off as she walks and searching the house.
In a true show of multitasking talent and athleticism, Poppy hobbles on one foot, balancing, shoving her other foot into the boot as she grabs an egg with the other hand and tries at once to wiggle her foot into the boot and eat the egg at the same time, all the while yelling to her mother, "Well, how long has he been out? This is delicious, Ma. You really outdid yourself this time, but how long has he been out there?"
I don't know. He's maybe an hour or two. He woke up early. There was something wrong with the wards around the forest. Something must have tripped him, another stag or something, but you wouldn't really tell me.
The wards? And at this moment, she finishes putting her boot on and fully takes a seat to devour the rest of the delicious breakfast.
I found it.
Where was it?
Poppy, you gotta stop leaving this by the garden by the door.
Well,
I don't know why you take off one before you take off the other, but you really gotta stop.
I was feeding the chickens last night, and I don't know what I was doing either. Okay, I need it right now.
Okay, all right, here you go. Yep, no, I see that plate. It's not finished yet. Give me your foot, and you finish that plate. She yanks the foot that doesn't have a boot on it as she sort of pseudo twists Poppy's body.
Ow!
Precisely, but forcefully, just shoves her foot into it.
Okay. Shoveling the rest of the eggs into her mouth.
All right, don't be such a baby. All right, you're not Fern. You're not your brother. It's fine.
I'm fine. You're right. But speaking of Fern, any news from the fort?
So far, we know he made it. And you did it a few years ago. You know the registration with the Magic Academy takes 8 hours or so to spend the night. So we'll be back before we know it.
That's good. It's quiet without him here.
Yeah, don't I know it. Well, all good things must come to an end, right? And she winks at Poppy. And in this moment, the two of you hear heavy footsteps coming from outside the door. In a moment, the door swings open, and silhouetted by the morning sunlight is a hulking figure. A large mass of muscle and sinew. Poppy's father, Cyril. the very picture of a leader of men. He is broad-shouldered. He wears trousers covered in dirt, patched up, almost the same white-collared shirt out to the field, out to the woods every day. He puts his vest over it when he needs to. He puts his hunting leathers over it when he needs to. But he is never without a pristinely pressed collar. And he is not happy. Poppy, I told you we needed the rifles cleaned by this morning. What did I find this morning?
The second his voice rings out and the familiar gait of his can be heard, Poppy is rigid. Her body, every molecule of her being stone cold at the sound of her father's angry voice. And for a moment, she looks into her mother's eyes. And there's a thought of, maybe if I don't turn around, I won't have to face it. But then the silence grows, and she knows the longer she waits, the more angry he becomes. So she turns. Pa, I know. That was my fault. I should have been up. I know.
No, Poppy. That's the problem. When I say that these rifles need to be cleaned by this morning, I expect you to do it at night. The night before. Not the morning of. Do you understand?
There's a flinch, and there's a flicker of combativeness, of a willingness, a want to argue back, to say, you set me on another task. How could I have possibly cleaned them in the same night? But it doesn't come out, because Poppy knows she is wrong, and she knows better than this. Another pause, she hangs her head. You're right, Pa, I'm sorry. They should have been done last night. There's no excuse.
I don't care if it's your own equipment that doesn't get cleaned. But these rifles are for the rest of the guild. Do you understand what that means? It means that if one of these isn't clean, what could happen, Poppy?
Someone could get hurt.
Someone could get hurt. Someone who's not you. People depend on you. Do you understand?
Yeah, I do, Pa.
Really? Because I don't think you do. Because when I walked out this morning and I had to get up early because something tripped the wards out there and we had to reset them immediately, when I found those rifles, they were filthy. The siphon chambers hadn't been cleaned in weeks. I found gunk in them. Have you ever seen it, Poppy? Have you ever seen what happens when a siphon firearm misfires? Let me answer that for you. You haven't. You haven't because you've never seen it, but I have. Half a man's face blown off. You want to do that to someone you know?
Pa, no.
Is it going to happen again, Poppy? Is it going to happen again?
No, sir, it won't.
No, I better not. Now, I got to go back out because those wards, it isn't just one. A bunch of them are tripped, and I need to handle that right now. You need to handle the rest of your chores because I know you're behind.
All right, I will. Is everything okay? Do you need help gathering patrols for the wards?
Wild Huntsman knows I need help, but not from you. You've got your chores, and you do them right, and you do them right the first time.
All right, I will.
And with that, Cyril looks at his wife, Imogen, and Poppy turns her head to look at her mother, and for a split second, she can see a look of defiance in her mother's eyes as she stares daggers at her father. And when she turns back, not the first time, but rare, she sees her father turn his gaze to the ground, shake his head, and walk back out the door in a huff, closing the door loudly. Imogen sits back down next to Poppy. I'm sorry, baby girl.
He's right. That was dumb. That was dumb of me.
It was, but he could have said it better. He could have delivered it better. And God's know I've been trying for years to get him to soften how he talks to people. Poppy, you have to know, your daddy means well. Your daddy wants the best for you. And I know there's a lot of pressure on you. And I know you're nervous about the trial that's coming up. But he's only this way because he sees the potential in you. And I see the potential in you. He's just a little rough around the edges, but he means well. He knows that you can be so much more.
Does he, Ma?
Yes. No, I promise he does. I promise, Poppy.
Sometimes I just worry that I can't ever make him proud.
You already have, baby. And you make me proud. And you make Fern proud. And I know he doesn't show it, definitely not as much as your father does, but he loves you just as much as we do, and we all love you, Poppy. Again, I'll have words with him about how he talks to you, but I promise you he loves you, Poppy, and he means well. He is just the way he is, and sometimes we gotta work our way around it, you know? Imogene's eyes lose a bit of their luster. You feel something that you felt as you've gotten older, this sort of tug that your mother has about a life she could have lived had she not stayed here in the village of Ardeno. You remember her talking when you were a child about her adventures up north in Aurora, her time that she visited Port de Glace, the friends she made in Beaumont, but now she doesn't really talk about them anymore. Your mother, practiced, stands up and she extends her hand and says, well, you got chores to do, girl. You better get to it.
Thanks, Ma. I can't thank you enough for all that you do all the time, especially this morning.
All part and parcel of being a mother. And one day, you are going to experience the same thing, and you will thank me even more. How did she deal with my shit? Oh, my mother's a saint. That's exactly what you'll be thinking.
I think it every day, Ma.
Oh, sure you do, baby. All right, go on, get on. I know when you're procrastinating. Get out of here. Go on, get.
With a practice kiss to her mother blown into the air, she waves her hand and is off out the front door to her laundry list of chores that follow every single day.
As she steps outside, she is greeted by the brilliant, cloudless, sunny sky. Overhead, this beautiful patch of land, verdant green forests, rolling hills of grass, wide open fields of wheat, barley, shy of being fallow for a year. I've never, ever known flooding, known droughts, an idyllic village. And as she steps down and makes her way down the hill to the rest of the village, she hears a commotion in the village square.
There are rarely times in Ardeno when a fuss is started. People keep to themselves. They follow their own jobs, their own duties. And that's what makes the village go round. It's the natural order of things. It always has been. So moments like this, moments of slight panic, hysteria, it raises a bell in Poppy. And the moment she hears it, she's instantly curious. And she takes off, walking at a brisker pace than she was before, ears all but perked in the direction of the noise.
As she approaches the village square, heads turn to acknowledge her, and the crowd parts way to reveal in the center her father, standing with his right-hand man in the Huntsman Guild, Pierre. A stout man, balding, bit of gray hair, but dressed in fine huntsman's leathers with a rifle shouldered. A man she knows very well. A man she's known her entire life, has always been kind to her, has mentored her in many ways. And the two of them are standing over a third figure who is kneeling. But this man is not quite a man. dressed in relatively fine clothes, although dirtied now, with spots of blood on them, is a person with fox ears, with fur the same color as his jet black hair. Fur that lines his neck and extends through his clothing and all the way to his hands, on the back of his hands. A bushy tail appearing from underneath his tailcoat, and his face is bloody. One of his eyes is bruised so bad it has completely shut, and he is on his knees with his hands clasped, his claws apparent, as he says, "Please, messieurs, there has been a grave misunderstanding. I am not who you think I am. I am but a humble trader on my way to Villeneuve. Please, I'm on my way to Aurora, and we have to pass through here to get to there. Please, I am not who you say I am." And as he begs, your father crosses his arms, and he hasn't caught sight of you yet. But he grits his teeth, and he raises his hand, and he strikes the foxkin in the face so hard that his head hits the ground as he tumbles down. Please, don't, please! Your father takes one more step over him, reaches down and grabs his fine shirt and yanks him until they are face to face, and says, Yeah, that's what they all say. But I know you're kind. So tell me, how long has La Société de la Patte Rouge been planning something around here? And where are your friends? If you tell me now, I'll make this quick. The man is a blubbering mess. His ears flat against his head, his tail just completely puffed as he begs for Cyril to let him go. Now, I'm warning you, I can make this real difficult, but you can make this real easy on yourself. You just need to tell me exactly how many of your Patte Rouge friends are out in the woods right now and what you plan on doing. Because I'm going to tell you right now, if you come into this village, if your friends step one paw into my village, none of you are leaving alive. Please, I'm just a trader. I'm not one of the Patte Rouge. Please, I beg of you. At this moment, Pierre grabs your father's shoulder and says, Listen, Cyril, I don't know why this beastkin doesn't have a slave mark on him, but there's a chance he's telling the truth. I mean, stranger things have happened, and with what the crops are like now down south, I wouldn't be surprised if they're looking for ways to make money up north. And at this, your father scoffs. You believe this trash? Really? After everything that this village has been through, you think that he's going to Villeneuve? So please, I promise you, I have a letter in my carriage from the Chevalier of Villeneuve asking me to come. Oh, yeah, the Chevalier of Villeneuve. Yeah, and the Snow Queen's my cousin. I'm sure that's exactly why you're here. I've heard enough of this. We'll do this the hard way then. We'll start with one of your little fingers, and we'll work our way up until you tell us exactly how many of your kind are out there. No, please, God, no, please. I beg of you, sir, please. At this, your father sort of makes a wordless nod to Pierre as he drags the blubbering man off into what you know to be the sort of village jail. It's just this tiny structure with iron bars, 2 cells, not meant to hold people very long. The man screams his entire way there as your father finally catches sight of you and says, Well, our morning just got a whole lot worse.
As Poppy takes in all that she just witnessed, there is a cacophony, a jumbling of emotions that are almost difficult to sort through. Confusion, terror, horror and awe at the pure devotion of her father to their people's safety. Whether he has to play the villain, he is someone who is willing to do it to ensure that no harm comes to Ardeno. And there's a moment where Poppy wants to defy, wants to ask him to have sympathy on the foxkin, but all that leaves her mouth is, what do you need me to do, sir?
Your father sighs as everyone else in the village seems to have gathered around this square to see the events of the day, and all eyes fall upon your father. He takes his palm and he rubs his temple, and after a pause, without opening his eyes, he says, "Rally the militia." I'm sorry, what, Cyril? Rally the militia. Rally the militia. Put up the walls. Put the sandbags up. Get everyone ready. We're on high alert, people. Everyone's tasks for the day are on hold. And he starts to give out orders, recalling the farmers, recalling the woodsmen. He calls for the storage units to be checked up on. He assigns guards to them. He assigns everyone to go to the arsenal and grab rifles and bows and crossbows, whatever that they have. Finally, he turns to Poppy and says, "Now, Poppy, I need you to do something pretty important for me. Look at me, girl. Look at me."
Oh, all right. Okay.
Okay? The Montpelliers. You know that their daddy got sick and that he hasn't been able to work, okay? But that doesn't mean we've given up on him. That doesn't mean that we expect coin from him and his family. So what I need you to do is I need you to go out and hunt them some dinner for tonight. Do you understand?
Yeah, Pa, I can try.
Can I trust you with that?
Yeah.
Okay? Because they are less fortunate than we are. And it is our duty to help them. Right?
Right.
So, grab your bow. I don't need you to hunt the doe or anything. Just get a few rabbits. And make sure they have something to eat tonight.
All right.
Because the rest of the food in the village is all going in the stores, okay? And everyone is going to be rallied and ready to go. Now, I don't know how long we're going to have to wait this out, but I have a feeling that he's not alone out here. You understand? You understand? He's a beastkin without a slave mark this far north. Do you understand what that means?
I do, Pa, but what of the wards in the forest? I mean,
Listen, I figured he probably tripped them, but more than one was tripped. He's got friends out there, okay? Now, I'm sending you over to the east side. There should be nothing there, but you're not going to dally too long, right? You're going to hunt a few rabbits and you're going to come straight back.
I will. Yeah, I will.
All right. Listen, whatever happens, I love you, and we're going to be okay. Keep your head on a swivel.
I will, but Pa, you be safe as well, all right?
All right, now go on. Go. We're losing daylight. Go.
Okay. And with that, Poppy takes off, not sparing a moment. She is passing by every single house that she has grown intimately familiar with all 19 years that she has lived in this small village. She passes Jean, the cobbler, Amélie, the baker, and spares no glance, no mind to each house. She makes her way into the eastern forest, bow in hand and on a singular mission. Catch a hare. For the love of the wild grey, catch a hare.
As she sets out about her day, hours pass, and it feels as if the forest itself knows that there is impending danger. What would normally be an easy task for someone so well trained as Poppy, so talented at hunting as Poppy, she struggles to find any sign of life. She doesn't even hear birds chirping in the trees. It is eerily silent in the Aubrac forest today. As the hours go by, she finally spots something. She hides underneath the foliage of the forest. A large gray rabbit cautiously inches its way into a clearing in this ancient forest, its little nose sniffing relentlessly for danger. It stares at a delicious patch of clovers ahead, belly grumbling as it assesses whether or not it's safe to approach. It stops to listen, ears perked and rotating around as it lays quietly under the cover of brush. And sensing no immediate danger, the rabbit stretches one paw out slowly in front, and then another, and then another, and it reaches the patch, and it hurriedly begins to devour the little green leaves, and it lifts its head, its mouth full, to once again check for its surroundings.
The arrow is knocked, bow in perfect position, and Poppy stands like a true huntsman, aimed at her little target in front of her, a prayer in her head. Nothing else but this small little creature that she needs. She promised her father she would bring home. And as she lets loose the arrow, she's confident that it makes its mark.
The arrow soars through the air, flying quickly towards this unsuspecting rabbit. And at the very last moment, it surreptitiously turns its head just enough that the arrow clips the side of its face and lands with an unsatisfactory thud into the tree behind the rabbit. The rabbit sprints off into the woods, jumping through brush until it is seen no more.
The moment the arrow misses, there is a release of anger within Poppy. It's immediate, and it is in the form of a howl, a screech out of her body, one that she never allows herself to take. The sound breaks through the quietness of the forest, and she pauses, breathing heavy, but it does nothing to relieve the pebble of anger situated in her chest. It's present, it's thrumming, it's rage from a built-up day of failures. Nothing going her way, nothing having gone her way for the past, it seems like years. All in the form of a rabbit that she couldn't catch. And as she stares at the underbrush that it disappeared into, the only thought bouncing around her head, the only notion iterated in her mind is, why can't I ever just be enough?
Carmen, does Poppy say that out loud?
Yes.
As the words leave her lips, the sound of slow clapping can be heard behind her. And emerging from the darkness of the shade of the trees, a young woman about the same age as Poppy, dressed in identical huntsman's leathers, with a bow around her shoulder, her jet black hair, beautiful and shiny, cascading down to her shoulders, framing a pale and perfectly shaped face, inset with deep, beautiful brown eyes. Adele steps into the clearing, eyes on Poppy, clapping, and she says, "Well, I'll tell you why you're not enough, dirt face. It's 'cause you're not good enough." Oh, what's the matter? Daddy's girl having a bad day?
There's a pause as Poppy tries to reel in that rage that was just overcoming her, but for no luck. She stares at the girl, and every nasty thought that she's been thinking, every piece of the day that just hasn't gone her way, it all spews out. What are you doing out here, Adele, really? I mean, we've got enough going on.
Enough going on. I'm on the morning hunt, in case you didn't remember. Oh, wait, you never remember the hunt schedules, do you?
No. I remember the hunt schedules. It's just that you're rarely on them for me to pick you out.
There's a difference, Dirtface. I'm rarely out here for long because... And from behind her back, tied to her belt, she unhooks a string of 4 very large hairs that are tied and ready to be gutted and cooked. Because I usually finish early. I hit my quotas before the end of the day, Dirtface.
Congratulations, a hair. I think that's the first one I've seen you get in weeks.
Well, I got 4, and that's 4 more than what I see on your belt. You ain't got nothing. Oh, your daddy's gonna be mad. Woo. I'll be sure to walk past your house and make sure your daddy sees that I have accomplished what his daughter could not. Just a simple hair hunt.
When you grow up, Adele, and realize there's more important things than your little childish rivalry, you're gonna be so much more than what you are now, which is quite frankly a bitch.
I love sparring with you, Dirtface, but I'm gonna head back now. And she ties the hairs back to her belt. And she begins to walk away before she turns back and says, "Wait, what else is going on this morning?"
You didn't hear?
No, I've been out here, you idiot. What didn't I hear?
Well, there have been patrols in and out all morning. I would have thought someone would have stopped to tell you. The wards were broke, and Pa found a foxkin in the center of town. Unbranded.
He found a what now?
Yeah.
An unbranded foxkin.
Yeah, they're fortifying the town right now. Everyone's on high alert.
Yeah, why didn't you say so earlier? What the hell's the matter with you?
I thought you already knew.
She quickly adjusts, ties the hairs tighter to her belt, takes her bow, and she puts it over her far shoulder, and she says, "Oh, you're such an idiot. Do you understand what this means? If they're rallying the militia, do you know how bad this could get? Why the hell are you out here?"
Because I was supposed to catch dinner.
Oh, you were supposed to catch dinner. I see how well that went.
Don't you see there's something weird in the woods here? When did you catch those hairs? How long ago was it?
I don't know. It's right when I woke up. Probably been another 4 hours I haven't seen anything.
Right. It's silent. It's strange. There's something out there. So, as much as I hate your guts, get back, because that food's going to be needed.
She takes a moment, and she scans Poppy's face. And for a moment, Poppy thinks she's going to say something snarky back. But instead, Adele just nods. And she says, uncharacteristically seriously, "Wild huntsman keep you safe, Poppy." And she turns and she starts sprinting back.
Poppy takes a beat, a moment to let peace and the silence of the forest wash over her before turning around herself and making her way back empty-handed, knowing and praying that her dad doesn't see her the second she enters.
As she makes her way back through the forest, it remains eerily silent. And while she's not in a rush, she does see that the sun has started to set a bit. She is losing light. By the time that she gets back and she can see the outskirts of the village, she is greeted with the sight of tan sandbags all around the village and a blockade on the main road leading from the south, going through the village and then through the forest. She can see some makeshift fortifications on some of the houses that are on the outside of the village. And she walks closer. And as she does, she spots a familiar figure. On the outskirts of one of the barricades, she can see a wolfkin boy with wolf ears, gray in color, with white tips, and a slim but fluffy tail, fortifying the walls around the shop of the blacksmith who owns him. He turns his head and he catches sight of Poppy. He looks around a little first, and then he stands up straight and he puts his hand up and waves to her.
As Poppy catches sight of Lucas, there is a physical depression, a release of energy from her shoulders. She takes in his curling brown hair, the dimpled cheek, the crooked half smile that always lights up his face when he sees her, and the stress, the frustration, the anger of the day just soothes away. And the moment she sees him, she nods her own head to the forest in suggestion and doesn't even wait before walking back off into the opposite section of woods.
She approaches a special place, one not too far from the village, but fairly well hidden, where a creek runs through a small clearing, a place that she's very familiar with, a place that she and Lucas have met over the years as children, as teenagers, as the young men and women they have become. And she stands there. Not too long. The padding of soft steps can be heard behind her as the young man stands by her and stares down at the creek with her. Some rough day we're having, right?
What is going on today? And without waiting for a response, Poppy leans down and picks up a rock and skips it across the water. I mean, first, I sleep in, I skip my chores, I can't even catch a hare, and then Adele... You know how Adele is.
You ran into Adele in the forest?
Yeah, with 4 hairs on her belt when I couldn't even catch a single one.
Oh, no.
Lucas, a single one. It's backwards to me.
Oh, sweet pea, I'm sorry. I'm sure she had some choice words to jab at you with, didn't she?
Doesn't she always?
I swear, I don't understand girls in general, but you two, I really don't understand. She is so nice to me and everyone else, including your father, including your brother. What is it between the two of you?
She thinks all the renown that I have is from being my father's daughter.
Well, she's very wrong, because your renown is yours and yours alone. You are a good huntsman, sweet pea.
Lucas.
No, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear her unkind words seeping into your mind. You are, first and foremost, a kind and wonderful person. And second, a kick-ass huntress. And just because you have one bad day doesn't mean that you are bad.
She turns to him. She has spent nearly every day looking at. The same eyes she fell in love with however long ago, and for a moment, she's lost in them. But for all the wrong reasons, because the eyes that reflect back to her are that of a bloodied, bruised foxkin in the center of town, screaming for his life. She turns away, suddenly sickened, her stomach clenching at the memory. Were you in town this morning? When it happened?
Poppy can't see Lucas, but she does hear an uncomfortable shuffling. Yeah, I saw.
I'm sorry, that... She looks back at him now.
Why?
It must have been hard.
No, I mean, why would it be hard? He's no friend of mine. No family of mine.
I know, but that... I'm sorry, you're right. I can't speak on what you've been through. It just feels like... It's not fair, what happened.
No. It's, listen, it's just life. And, my life is great, all things considered. Mostly because I got you. But, listen, I don't identify with them any more than a bear or a wolf or a bird. I don't know them. I've never known them. This is all I've ever known since birth. So you don't have to feel sorry for me, Sweet Pea. Oh, come on. Enough talking about me. What happened this morning? Did your dad get cross with you again?
I didn't clean the guns because I slept in.
As the two of you smile at each other, you suddenly hear the crack of a gunshot. Wait, what was that? Did you hear that?
Yeah, what? That was a gun. Luke, that was a gun.
And seconds later, you hear another gunshot, followed by another, and finally, screams. Oh no, the village. We gotta get back now.
Yeah. And Poppy takes off, sprinting, not caring if he's following, not caring if she passes him. She is running towards the site of her hometown.
The two of you make it past the trees, and you see the village of Ardeno, now with the sun set, glowing with the embers of fires all around the village, as screams and gunshots are heard mixed together in this melody of chaos. And the two of you sprint towards the village, and you can hear from behind you, Lucas says, You gotta go find your dad. I have to, I'm sorry, Poppy, I gotta go find my master. I gotta make sure he's okay.
Do what you have to do, but be safe, Luke, please.
You two, be safe. And he sprints off towards one of the outer homes that have been fortified as Poppy makes her way into the village center. He turns the corner of one of the wooden houses, and as she does so, she feels splinters of wood erupt from inches away from her face and strike her cheek, drawing a little drop of blood. This she has never experienced before, but knows instinctively that someone has just tried to shoot her.
A terrified scream rips its way out of her chest, and she immediately ducks. Seconds too late. It doesn't matter. It's a bodily reflex. She takes a moment, looks around, searching for any familiar face, anyone in the crowd.
She sees that the square is barricaded and has sandbags that all have her village people, her friends, her family, armed with rifles behind them. And they are all firing towards the tree line of the forest to the north, as screams can be heard from both the square and from the forest. As she ducks and weaves her way, she spots a number of huntsmen, all yelling at each other and taking aim and firing. He passes the bodies of some of the men that have mentored her, covered in blood or in pools of their own, motionless on the ground.
Bile rises to her throat. There's not a word to describe the terror and pain she feels when overlooking the sight. It takes a moment to kind of drink it all in and witness what she is witnessing, but the second she has even composed a bit of herself, tears already pricking the corner of her eyes, she spots Pierre and runs over to him. Fear driving her faster than she's ever ran, and the second that she's over to him, breathing heavy, barely able to get words out. Where? Pierre, what's going on? Where's my dad? Where is he?
The squat, balding man turns to Poppy, his face full of a fear that Poppy has never seen in this stalwart and brave man, as he slumps down behind the sandbags and tries to collect his words until eventually he just uses his finger and points behind Poppy towards the square.
What?
As Poppy turns her head, she sees laid out amongst the other bodies her father, somewhat sitting up, his torso wrapped in a bandage as several people are trying to tend to him, and he is fighting them off, and he is screaming, "Get off of me! Where's my rifle? I'm not done yet. I'm not done with these mongrels yet. Where's my rifle?"
Poppy breaks towards him. The minute she's in range, she is sliding on her knees over to him, hands immediately ghosting over his wounds, shaking as she stares. Pa? That's a lot of blood. Pa, what's going on?
Pop, listen to me. You listen to me right now. This is the worst case scenario, and I have a job for you. We can hold our own here. We've got enough guns and we still got enough people. We can hold them off. But I need you to go find your mother. I don't know where she is. You need to go home right now. Do you understand?
No, you're hurt, Pa. You're hurt.
Poppy! Poppy! You go home right now and you find your mother and you bring her right here.
Oh, okay, I will, but be safe, please. And don't struggle. Lay down. Let them help you, please.
He begins to try and get up. He winces in pain as he collapses back on the ground. He leans over and snags a revolver from one of the huntsmen who are helping him, and he hands it to Poppy and says, take this, and go right now. And you don't stop until you both come back here safe. Do you understand?
I understand. Yeah, I will.
Go.
And Poppy runs. As she runs, questions, no answers, fear, pain, worry as she sprints, making her way up the hill. She thinks of the dead faces she saw, all of her huntsmen in training, all of the mentors she had growing up, these people that raised her when her father wasn't around, when her mother had to leave town. Gone in a flash before her eyes, before she got to say bye. But there's no time to dwell on that. No time to cry, even. Because she's racing up to her house. Ablaze.
The door is ajar. From inside, over the sounds of crackling fire, you can hear grunts and yells.
Ma! She sprints inside.
As she opens the door, her once beautiful home has been destroyed. The trophies ripped from the walls, the rugs stained with dirt and blood and soot. And in the middle of it all, she sees her mother, her strawberry blonde hair turned her back against the door and struggling with a hairkin man. His rabbit ears jet black and black against his head as he is overpowering Imogen with a revolver in one of his hands.
The world slows around Poppy as she takes in the scene. This beautiful house, this well-lived, warm home. Her safety, her peace. 19 years. Destroyed, crumbling around her, on fire in some bits, blood splattering. The couch she laid on, the walls, the tapestries, torn, and her mother, pinned by a beast. The scream that leaves her body is almost as animalistic as he is, and she raises the revolver in her hand and stares at him. Get off of her! Ma, are you okay?
Imogen turns her head in a flash and says, No, Poppy, leave! You gotta leave right now! Go, girl, go!
No. I'm not leaving you. Pa sent me here, and you're gonna get out of this. Let her go right now.
The moment the words leave Poppy's lips, the hairkin man, in a burst of strength, frees his pistol hand from Imogen, and he hits her across the face. She falls to the floor.
No!
He looks at Poppy, his eyes full of malice. Poppy has never, ever had someone look at her this way. He raises his pistol arm and aims the revolver at Poppy.
She stares into those hate-filled eyes. The emotion is a reflection of that pebble of rage that she has felt inside of her for so long. And she stares and she stares until she sees herself reflected back. But as her finger dances along the trigger, as she holds the gun with shaky hands, no part of herself can bring that finger to press down, to pull it, to kill this beast in front of her.
In this moment of hesitation, the hairkin man with jet black ears smirks and says, "You should have shot first." And suddenly, you hear a primal rage as your mother gets up off the floor and tackles the man. In doing so, knocks his arm, releases the trigger. The sound of the gunshot in this closed, quartered off small space cracks through the air, and Poppy's ears burst momentarily as her mother struggles with the man for the gun once more. The hairkin man, in a burst of strength, raises his claws and swipes at Imogene's chest, and in doing so, flips the pendant that Poppy has always seen her mother wear and rip it from her chest as he shoves her off of him. And in doing so, Imogene stumbles backwards as her foot gets caught on a broken chair and she falls backwards. She hits her head on the corner of the counter. She falls to the ground with a sickening thud, motionless. The hairkin sprints out the back door and into the night.
Despite the violence, the screams, the gunshots coming from Ardeno only a few hundred feet away, the world is silent as she stares at her mother's motionless form on the ground. She hears her own heartbeat, then a second one, and she's moving towards her mother's body. Sound erupts in her ears, screaming. There's so much screaming, and it's coming from her own throat. Poppy's hands fly to her mother's head, cradling it as blood seeps from the gaping wound in her skull. She tries, uselessly, to stop the blood flow, stop the life force from spilling from the gash. No. Wake up, Ma, please. Please. Trying her best to shake her head, trying to get any reaction, one that won't come anymore. Poppy sits there for an indefinite amount of time, begging, pleading to the wild grave for a response that will never come again.
As the pool of blood forms around Poppy and the body of her mother, she hears a horn sound from the distance. And in the moments that follow, the screaming and the gunshots begin to stop. But the cries of pain and loss do not.
Woo!
Oh my goodness.
Oh, that was a lot of emotions. Okay.
Gosh.
Carmen, how do you feel?
What don't I feel? That's the real question. Wow. An emotional journey.
What do you think coming into this one? What did you, was it everything you hoped for?
And then some. Yeah. I think there was some great characterization shown here from literally every character that you brought out.
Thank you.
So that was really great. I loved getting to see the dynamic of her dad, of, you know, his fierceness, his loyalty, how much he hates being the villain that he has to be sometimes. And even like the softness with asking her to go hunt for a family that can't afford to do it on their own. It just was a really great oh my God, good parallels to the villain that he plays most of the time. So
I'm glad. Yeah.
even Adele, like that moment where she like wishes Poppy to be safe. It's just, we got good sides from everyone and bad sides. And wow, too much.
Yeah. I'm gonna be honest. Poppy's dad, I may or may not have based off of certain people from the Midwest that I know, just because
Valid.
they're farmers, and so they have a lot of this attitude of like fiercely loyal, super loyal, but very harsh. And it's just like, hey, if something needs to be done, it needs to like be done right now, or there's like actual consequences.
Right.
And I base a lot of it off that because like, yeah, they can be really harsh, very blunt sometimes, but like they do care in their own way. And that's what that's what I pictured Poppy's dad to be like. Because I don't think it's like permanent asshole. I think it's like mostly asshole, but there's a reason for it.
I want to add a comment there that as someone who did grow up in the Midwest and who thought that I was completely over all of my childhood trauma.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, no. Oh my God.
Oh,
in the first intro, when Cyril storms in the door and we see Poppy do that trauma response, I was like, okay, I'm strong. I'm a strong adult. I can handle this. And then you said a line and I wrote it down. Do you understand? Because I don't think you do. And I retreated into a part of myself. I was like, God bless Carmen for pulling through the performance on the rest of that scene, because I just would have been like, oh my God.
I did feel it.
Yeah, he's rough. He's real, man. That is a real dude who lives in Ohio somewhere. Like,
that's the Ohio man.
Yeah.
No, I definitely lost myself in it a bit. I was like nodding along in real time, like, yeah, no, I get it.
It's just a scene. Carmen, it's just a scene. It's fine.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that was intense.
What do you think about this being an audience's potential first look at the relationship between the beastkin and humans?
Absolutely perfect. Absolutely perfect. The introduction of describing a beastkin without a slave brand. In those words, you set up so much of the world where it was just the immediate revulsion, the confusion, the disgust, and also the sense of needing safety in their own tribe. And the fact that Lucas as well, too, was just like, those aren't my people. I was like, we have some nuance. For a while, I was like, wow, Lucas is the only one who has no shit going on. And then he said that, and I was like, oh, maybe he has a little bit of his own shit going on.
Yeah.
But a beautiful introduction to the lore of the world. Absolutely gorgeous. And nice insertion of both a harekin and a foxkin.
Foreshadowing.
There's levels to this.
I'm really glad it wasn't a foxkin that killed Imogene, because that would add so many struggles.
No, it has to be a hare, right?
Yeah,
like it has to. It has to. And then when
she doesn't hate herself enough.
It's not that. It's sort of the idea of like really becoming the thing that you fear or you hate or whatever these strong emotions of like what happens when you literally walk a day in their shoes. What does that do to like what is that person's thought process when that finally happens? And obviously in real life, very hard to do, not gonna lie. But in a fantasy world, we can explore of like, what if you literally just became this person who was persecuted and oppressed? And you literally walked a day or several in their shoes, right?
Right.
Joys of tabletop. The joys of tabletop.
Gosh.
There were some ups and downs in that performance, my friends.
Yeah.
Carmen, what was your favorite part?
I think my favorite part was the ending. I don't know, the scene of her dad, begging her, giving her, my gosh, because you're a demon, Kenny, giving her the one last task for her to not fail. Bring your mother back to the square. That is what you just need to do, and don't stop till you do it. And of course, it doesn't go her way because nothing went her way in this no good, terrible day. And then just screaming and screaming and screaming and praying for no response. It's a really heartfelt moment.
No gods.
No. For Poppy, she might be atheist.
Really? Say more about that. Because everyone in this town worships the huntsman.
For sure. And that was mostly said with Jess. I mean, I think Poppy follows the religion as much as anyone else in Ardeno, but you could see how a day like this would make someone question their own beliefs. There's a song on Poppy's playlist called God Must Hate Me. And I'm just saying.
I will say, and I hope you play with this, mostly because I haven't written out this religion, but Poppy you can write out this religion, but the Wild Huntsman is the god of death in our little world. And whatever religious beliefs, rituals, traditions follow that, I'm sure Poppy knows all of them. And as she's on the road on this little journey of hers, I imagine that doesn't immediately go away,
Mm-hmm. For sure.
There's old habits of prayers or whatever have you, or idioms. So I hope, Carmen, you get to play with it. I hope you get to play with it.
Me too. Yeah.
That's her in the corner, losing her religion.
Shut up.
It's not as if anyone in the party is going to push you that direction.
Oh.
I mean, it's interesting, religion in a place where any D&D setting, religion is weird because,
right.
It's do you believe in the gods? It's well, I don't know. That guy's arm was coming off and now it's not. So,
right.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
It's a place where faith is just not the same because I just think, I mean, I'm not sure if it's a god, but something's doing it.
Right. The proof is so
right.
there.
Yeah, it's a lot of do I believe? Do you see this shit? Do you see this?
But it can also be, said our time periods are weird, right? Because we're kind of
1800s-ish, yeah.
1800s-ish, but at the same time, we're also kind of feeling ancient Greeky in some ways, right? And just the way religion works. And, anytime when you have, and we're also, for us to conceive of an 1800s, vaguely Europeanish thing where there's more than one god, and that's normal, is weird for us.
Yeah.
It is a bit weird. I will say this, faith and magic aside, I do want you guys to think about, at this time period, actually slightly before this time period, IRL, Catholic Church versus the Church of England versus any bit of the Reformists era. Technically, a bunch of gods, technically speaking. They're all relatively the same, but the churches hated each other. So, it's think of a lot of that.
Sure. I mean, we had arguments about the right way to cross yourself.
Yeah.
It's you're using 3 fingers like a fucking heathen. It's obviously we were believing completely different gods, which justify us shooting at each other.
Yeah.
Whereas, but whereas you have polytheism, sometimes you go, you primarily worship Athena and I primarily worship Poseidon, and
Right.
That's true. The poly part is true. It's relative peace. But I do want to keep in mind that there is a person who has proclaimed herself a god incarnate, and that's more or less not a common thing to do.
Right.
Not a common thing to do, and it ruffles some feathers, as you might imagine.
True.
Can the expression "the Snow Queen is my sister" used derisively
Oh my
be
gosh.
a part of everyday language? Because
That was amazing.
have
I was
a-
rolling. That was so good.
Don't worry. I have a whole list of things. Like, okay, let's be completely real. And I'm definitely ripping this from Final Fantasy 14 and the translation team's notes. But like, this is the way language works, right? Like, whatever your faith, whatever your gods, your swear words generally come from that.
Right.
So, I'm looking right now at my list of slurs and curse words that are different levels of profanity relating to a queen. So, you're going to have some fun with them.
Yay. I know, you made me laugh in that very intense scene by saying that. I was completely shocked by those words coming out of your mouth at that moment in time.
You're welcome. I told you this world had laughs. I just didn't tell you where they were inserted into.